If I told you that this world would be a better place if we all just got along, hold hands, and sang kumbaya, I would be telling you an unintentional lie because it's not true. Many advances in this world have occurred through conflict. Sometimes not getting along is not a bad thing, but what's important is how you deal with it. Someone once told me something very important. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond to it. It's very important. You can't change other people, but you can definitely change yourself. This is the first of many series to come. It's called The Art of Conflict. I titled it The Art of Conflict because conflict management, conflict resolution, or how you may have heard it, is an art. It is a skill. It is not intended to maneuver people, manipulate people, or whatever. But conflict resolution is a skill and it will make you very, very, very successful in life, particularly when you're dealing with all types of relationships, whether it's personal, work, relationships when you first meet someone, business meetings, or whatever. If you cannot handle conflict, you will struggle in life. I can almost guarantee it. But it's never too late. Without telling my age, I've seen a lot of fights, a lot of disagreements, a lot of arguments. I've seen things from wars on the battlefield. I am a veteran. I've seen parents and children fight. I've seen store owners and employees fight. I've seen people fight at the workplace. I've seen people, unfortunately, assaulted in the workplace. I've seen people get hit upside the head with a chair. It's just sad. I've seen people arrested from the workplace. And I've seen worse. I've seen some conflicts end fatally, and that's just terrible. And I always want to say to myself, what happened to get people from point A to wherever point Z is at? What happened? Why did it have to go that far? The question I want to ask is, why can't we as civilized people just sit down and talk it out and come up with a win-win? Or if we have to go to court, we have to go to court. But why can't we just talk? And I'm going to explain to you why I think handling conflict is harder and harder in today's time than it was when I was growing up. There's one thing that you need to know, and I'll say this to everyone. No matter what you learn by sitting down, talking, common techniques, taking turns, I talk, you talk, I talk, you talk. No matter what you learn, there is one thing that you need to know. You have to know this. Conflict is not mutually exclusive. I'll say it again. Conflict is not mutually exclusive. What do I mean? Well, let's go down the definition. Mutually exclusive is a term, I believe it started in statistics or in math. It talks about two or more events cannot occur at the same time. An example of that will be if you're flipping a coin up in the air. The coin is going to land on either heads or tails. So flipping a coin is a mutually exclusive event. It's either one or the other. So let's go over that definition again. Mutually exclusive means that two or more events cannot happen at the same time. Cannot, unless it's a malfunction. If you're driving a car and you see a traffic light, it is either green, it is either yellow, or it is either red. It is never two colors unless it's malfunctioning. The point of me telling you this is that a traffic light operation is a mutually exclusive process. It's either one or the other. Some other examples of mutual exclusivity is war and peace. Those two can't happen at the same time. Taking a test, you either pass or fail. Although, you pass and there's different grades. You either pass a test or you either fail a test. It's just that simple. So why did I say conflict is not mutually exclusive? Because that's what I think is happening in today's times. When conflict happens between two or more people, there are many who believe that during conflict, somebody's either right or somebody's either wrong. Meaning that in a conflict, they believe that it's mutually exclusive. It is possible that two people can be right or two people can be wrong or vice versa. It is possible. But we are living in times where, and I saw it in the 90s, that people were so focused on being right rather than, hey, listen, you're getting ready to lose your job. You should be focused on your job. No, I got to go in there and tell them blah, 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 because I'm right and they need to know it. A couple of weeks later, I see them shuffling out the door, holding their box. They don't seem to care at that point. And then you see them a little later and they're sad because they realize that they took their point of trying to prove that they were right so far that the risk wasn't worth it. I want to read something to you. Unresolved conflict often happens because the parties involved need some sort of resolution to everyone's satisfaction. That means they seek to label someone as right or wrong. If the parties involved could determine right or wrong, we wouldn't need police, attorneys, or the court system. But why is it so important to be right or wrong? We are often focused on being right and wrong because it is deeply ingrained right here. It's in our makeup. We act as though being right validates our self-worth. It strengthens our ego. We just have to be right. And we do it because we're trying to avoid the shame of being wrong or less intelligent or inept. But where did it come to a point where being human, which means you can be right or wrong, is so divided or partisan that you're right and you have good self-worth, you're wrong and you have bad self-worth or bad ego or shame? How did we get to this point? Because humans can make mistakes. That's how we learn and grow. If we don't challenge ourselves and admit and grow from it, we don't grow. And this is what I think is the main reason why we today have a hard time, a very hard time. What we should do is we should focus on creating win-win solutions so that we can say, hey, how do we move forward? How do we get past this? For instance, in a marriage, there's going to be problems. There are going to be good times. There are going to be bad times. But if a husband and wife, or whatever your situation is, are so focused and arguing and tearing each other up because one has to be right, the other has to be wrong to make you right, and vice versa, then the real problem is never discussed. And that's why I think people believe conflict is mutually exclusive, and they're not looking at the real issue. Listen to me when I tell you, who's ever watching, to be a man or be a woman, you are human. It is okay to be wrong. It is all right. Because what you have to understand is being right and being wrong is subjective. It really is, according to the point of view of who you ask. And that's a fact. That's why we have laws, and that's why we have court systems. That's why we have civil court systems when there's a dispute between parties and both people think that they're right, so they can present their cases and a judge determines based on the evidence presented. We need a third party because two people will not sit down as adults and say, I'll listen to you and you listen to me. And I've seen it. I've seen people sit down and what they do is, but what I'm saying is, but what I'm saying is, but what I'm saying is, and you need to understand this, but what I'm saying is, you're not listening. And what I'm saying is, and it's the silliest thing I've ever seen. It is the silliest thing. We've gotten away from being able to have intelligent conversations about the things that are really, really bothering us. We put on these facades and bury deep what's going on. And we fight and we argue over surface things. And that's not the real problem. For instance, a person may have a conflict with someone about something that they can't change. Think about that. A person may have a conflict with someone else about something they can't change, or it's too late. In that scenario, the person who has the problem should sit down and say, how do we move forward? But oftentimes it's the other person, and they'll say the only thing I can do is I need you to do this, and da da da. Well, I can't do that. It's too late for that. And that's what I want to talk about. When you're in a conflict with someone who is not willing to create a win-win situation, they only want to wallow in misery and anger, and they want to transfer that on to you. And they want to beat you down over and over for years just to get the satisfaction for the other person to say, I was wrong. All that time wasted. And for what? If a person tells you they were wrong, it only works to satisfy you. So then it becomes personal, and the conflict is about you as a person. So now we move from your conflict with someone else about something that they can't change to you getting the satisfaction. I was right. For what? You could spend your whole life with pain and misery and anger built up inside you. Or you can sit down with someone and say, I'm done. I'm done fighting. I'm done arguing. It is what it is. Can we come up with a way to move forward? There are too many people that are, unfortunately, laying in hospitals or somewhere else in life, and it doesn't look good for them. So they decide to pick up the phone and say, I miss you, I want to talk to you. It could have been 3 decades. You held on to this conflict and this argument for Lord knows how long. And for what? Now, I do understand there are people who will never, ever address what's bothering them. And that's okay. Whatever your religion is, I'm going to say I'll pray for them. But whenever conflict becomes so ingrained in you that you waste time and unhappiness and you destroy relationships over something that it's too late or you can't change it, and you're unwilling to sit down and create a win-win, you are robbing yourself of the happiness that you could have. You are robbing yourself of the opportunity that you could have. You are robbing yourself of potential avenues in which you can go and do things you never thought you could do because you're too busy holding on to, and I'll say it, pride. And for all of you all who are religious, Christian in fact, then you know pride is the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins. So I'll leave you with this. The art of conflict is a very, very good skill for you to master. But I'll tell you, you won't always get what you want. But when you learn to truly look at a situation, and I'm not saying put your feelings to the side, but look at a situation and say, how long do I want to hold on to this? And say, what can we do to move forward? When you say that, instead of saying, well, I'm not admitting I'm wrong, just say, what can we do to move forward? Sometimes you will never get the right and wrong. You will just never get it. Because 2 people actually believe they're right, depending on the circumstances they're in. And we all know there's 3 sides to everything. How one person sees it, how another person sees it, and actually what happened. Because we all know people will say, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I don't think it happened like that, because time clouds our memories. But just remember this. If you care about your own self-worth and your health and your future, and you care about someone else other than yourself, then I hope you take some time and figure out a way to work out whatever conflicts you got and actually practice this. The art of conflict is a great tool. Now, again, not everybody's going to want to resolve things. Some people are just so hurt or just so whatever, they will never want. You cannot resolve every simple thing. But what I'm saying to you is that if you have a situation where 2 people are willing to sit down and talk, do it. I am a veteran from the Desert Storm. And I can just imagine the lives lost in previous wars like Vietnam. Before 2 people, or leaders, 2 or more people sat down and created a treaty. Look at all the lives lost over countries and pride. This is what conflict can do. It destroys lives. But when you master it, you will be a winner. Thanks for watching.